Friday, February 19th, 2021 at 4:54 p.m. Central Standard Time, Houston, Texas. These are the Google search results for app.inc. And there's a problem here. There is a company attempting to dilute my brand, app.inc, and they're attempting to infringe on my trademark of app.inc premium domain name. So I am essentially the first here without the advertisements for Google. This company, American Paper and Provisions, is named American Paper and Plastics LLC at the Secretary of State level, and American Paper and Provisions is a DBA. Now the problem is, if you do business without a DBA, that's against the law. And if you do file for a DBA, the DBA must match exactly what your company name is. So I will prove that the registration of their DBA was in bad faith, if they even registered a DBA at all. And I will prove that they are doing commerce as app. They're trying to call themselves app, and they're also trying to call themselves app space inc, period. So these are the Google search results here, and it's pretty clear that they are trying to call themselves APPINC, which is a false association. Just because they have the appinc.com domain name does not provide them any trademark rights or protection to use app in commerce, just because they own the domain name. So going over their LinkedIn page, it clearly says American Paper and Provisions. Okay, that's the name of their business. But then over here it says app space inc, period. So now they're calling themselves app space inc. The problem is there is no DBA on file for them to call themselves app or app space inc. And I will prove it to you right now. When we go over to a California business search, it says American Paper and Plastics LLC. That's the name of the company. It's not app. It's American Paper and Plastics. American Paper and Provisions is a DBA that they filed. So when we go over to the fictitious business name search of Los Angeles County and I search for app, these are the results. So there's two names for app here. Document number 2017-201082. Now, fortunately for me, I ordered from Los Angeles County Registrar Recorder. I got a hold of the fictitious business names on record for LA County. And we will see that these are not registered to American Paper and Provisions. So app under 2017-201082 is registered to a Danish Saeed of Porter Ranch, California. So he is a sole proprietor. He registered this in 2017. Now, just because they registered a DBA does not give them legal protection. I own app in the state of California through app.inc. So this is not American Paper and Provisions. Next. Sung Jin Lee, fictitious business name statement. 2020-116010, filed August 1st, 2020 for app. This is an individual, sole proprietor. A month before I filed from app.inc, my California company in Los Angeles County, and I received protection from the state. It's registered at the state, Secretary of State level. So filing a DBA is no legal protection for the name, just like owning the domain name is not a right to the name. You have to provide goods and services for U.S. customers to buy, called whatever you want to trademark. Owning the domain name itself is not significant, and it's not sufficient enough to create an exclusive claim or trademark. Now, I do have a problem with this because I registered my company here, app.inc, in the state of California, September 8th, 2020. So I own app in the state of California through app.inc. There will not be an app co. There will not be an app corp. There will not be an app LTD in the state of California, because I have the exclusive right when I registered the name app.inc. I also filed for my U.S. trademark September 30th or 20th or 30th, I can't remember, but either way it was before the registration of the fictitious business name. So getting back to the LA County fictitious business name search, those two apps I just demonstrated to you are sole proprietors. There's one more APPINC, but it's run together, and it causes a problem because it's exactly my company name with no spaces. And Inc typically represents an extension. So Inc is not usually included within the name, but it's usually an extension. There's usually a space. It's usually an addition, like a suffix, but it's not run together. And we can prove that this was filed under document number 2020-161287, September 13th, 2020, which is over a month after I received registration from the California Secretary of State on September 8th. And we are competing in the same county, Los Angeles County. I also have trademarks, U.S. trademarks, for app.inc. that I lease to the company app.inc in California. I personally own app.inc. You can see that it was registered September 30th, or that's the filing date. So app.inc is my trademark. I own the premium domain name. I do domain name leasing services. I offer domain name leasing services to U.S. customers through my website, app.inc, premium domain name. So you can see that I registered my company September 8th. I have a trademark September 30th of 2020. And I'm supposed to believe that this company or whomever registered APPINC here, that this was done in good faith somehow, but it isn't. Clearly this was registered after I received legal protection at the state level, and it was done also after I filed my trademark in the US for Class 45 leasing of internet domain names and domain name leasing services. So whomever filed this APPINC did this in bad faith in order to rip me off within the same county in which my company was incorporated. So, and I do want to mention this here. When we go over to the APPINC website.com, when we go over to their website and we hit About Us, so here we go, and we've got another problem here because it's all this fictitious names here. So it's American Paper and Provisions now. So now it's not American Paper and Plastics. Now they're trying to do business as American Paper and Provisions. We can prove that they were doing business before they received DBA protection under the American Paper and Provisions. And as we scroll down and read this, we at app. So now you're saying your app here, but you don't have a DBA on file to prove that your app. Now you're saying your app space Inc. period. You don't have a DBA on file for app space Inc. period. If they have a DBA on file, it is for this APPINC run together, or APPINC run together. But you would only run it together to try to rip off my company because I own the trademark. I also own the company at the Secretary of State level. And they already know about my business, considering that they were trying to file a frivolous letter of protest against my trademark registration for app and app.inc. So they clearly knew that I'm conducting commerce as app and app.inc for leasing of domain names. And they filed a letter of protest. So they have tipped their hand indicating that they were aware, obviously registering something like this DBA after I've received state protection from California and after I received national protection from the USPTO. I own the trademark, regardless of its registration status for app and app.inc. I own the trademark. I already trademarked it when I offered the goods and services for US customers to buy, called app and app.inc from my website. So any registering of a DBA after the fact is clearly in bad faith and is to dilute my brand. They have no claim to APPINC, one word run together. They have no claim to app. They didn't file, there is no DBA on file in LA County for app that goes to American Paper. These are sole proprietor individuals. And the only reason that you would run this together, they never state on their site it's APPINC, no spaces. They either refer to themselves as just we at app, so you would need an additional DBA for this name app. You would also need another DBA for app space Inc. period, because those are different. Anything different of your company name and App Inc. run together is not sufficient to cover your use of app space Inc. period. Those are two different things. And it would only be to try to rip off my company, app.inc, because they were aware that there's no spaces in the domain name. So it was clear to just create confusion and dilute my trademark and dilute my brand and dilute my company intentionally after the fact. These are the articles of incorporation. I am the founder, I am the incorporator. I own app.inc in the state of California. And I'm being ripped off by this company. And they're infringing upon my brand, they're infringing upon my trademark, they're infringing upon my entity name of my company. I do not consent to them trying to call themselves App. I do not consent to them trying to call themselves APPINC. And why would you file that DBA like that, right? Why would you file it like that? They have no claim to it that way. They never even refer to themselves as APPINC run together. See, even at their own website, appinc.com, it's we at app. So now you're referring to yourself as app here, and then in the next paragraph, now it's app space inc period. You would need multiple DBA filings on file. And they don't have any that are sufficient. And notice when they do attempt to file the DBA, it's only to rip off my domain name because they make it one word. And they never refer to themselves as the one word APPINC, no spaces, no periods, at their own website. And the Google search results also indicate that they were doing a false association here. And these search results were here before they filed for the APPINC no space DBA. It has been this way on Google since 2018. So they have been a beneficiary of the false association that they have created for app. I'm going to order them to cease and desist. And if necessary, I am prepared, willing, and able to litigate and sue them and get an injunction against their behavior. They are not APPINC, no spaces, no periods. They never even refer to themselves on their own website as APPINC, no spaces. It's clear. They're calling themselves app up here, but they don't offer any products, goods, or services. Called app. They don't offer, and now they're calling themselves app space inc period here. But you don't offer any products, goods, or services. See, the only thing they have is the domain name. That's all they have for app is the domain name. That's it. And the domain name itself is not sufficient to prove any right or claim to the name. You have to offer products, goods, and services to U.S. customers to buy like I do. So I appreciate you watching this video. I am very disappointed to find out that they're ripping off my company and it was done intentionally. Thanks for watching. An ongoing saga.